Years I've been doing like I've wasted weeks, like hours and days. I'm constantly doing something in my brain. Something's happening. There's never like a minute of silence. It's like something, I could do this now. No, I should do this. I've got time for this. That's where I wanted to go. So it was like the opportunity.
Yeah.
The disappointment of, I didn't get what I wanted to get. Didn't see now, like I've failed. It was a knuckle down situation. I'm here now. I've tried so hard to get to here. If I don't now rapidly progress, then I will be left behind. And I probably, even though I was potentially looked very healthy, it was potentially my most unhealthy time.
Welcome to Getting There with Amy Claire, the podcast.
Okay.
So I would just get straight in. So for the viewers, listeners, would you like to introduce yourself?
I can, yes. My name is Sycamore. I am an actor and a rapper and a human person.
Human person.
Yeah.
Amazing.
My top level of introduction.
Same.
I was born in England, I think, pretty sure.
Pretty sure.
Fairly certain. And I have two brothers. That was the sibling bit.
Oh, you didn't have to say the sibling bit.
It's too late now.
It's done. It's like, imagine your requirements to come on the show, you must talk about siblings.
I was born here and I had many siblings.
Oh yeah, no.
And I'm a human
Okay,
person.
Amazing
Worst
stuff.
introduction ever.
Thank you for your wonderful introduction. So I'm going to get straight into the first event that you spoke about. You decided to not pursue a degree in economics. Okay. You can't remember which uni it is, which is fine, but you realised that when you didn't get in, you didn't actually want that in the first place. So you decided that you wanted to be a creative and you applied for musical theatre colleges and you got into Urdang Academy. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, yeah. Dang.
Okay, cool. So tell me about that. Tell me about that process of, okay, you were rejected from uni, but actually realising that it's potentially a blessing in disguise. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a weird one. I feel like it's two opposites, really.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, it was economics I was originally going for. I'd done musical theatre for as a youth theatres and acting as a child and all of that stuff, but it didn't seem like a feasible life goal, like a career that seems illogical, right?
Why is it illogical?
I don't think it is now, but it seemed like you go to school, you go to sixth form or
just the
college,
next
you
kind
get a
of part of
job.
the pattern.
Yeah, it seemed like the sensible thing I'd say to do. So I was sort of looking into, as I say, going to uni and doing economics, going into finance and banking, which is obviously like the complete opposite of what I do now. It's vastly different. It's like literally the opposite world. It's crazy. But yeah, I think, as I say, not getting in really was the blessing. It gave me the time to, because I had a gap year as well then. So I started working just in a pub, just as a bartender. And it sort of gave me the time to think. I actually didn't want economics. It just seemed like the logical step from my A-levels were sort of maths, economics, history.
Right, yeah.
It was very geared towards academics. And as I said, I don't even remember what uni it was at this point. It wasn't important. But then it was like, I didn't get into that specific one. And that's the one I need to go to make the career work, to make your life work. You know how school sometimes builds it up that GCSEs and then A-levels and then uni is like, that's the be-all end-all of existence in England, I say.
Can I ask, that moment, or basically how long did it take before you realised, actually, this isn't what I wanted anyway? Did that happen like instantly, or was it like, oh no, it was a couple of weeks later? Or when did you kind of realise, no, that wasn't a blessing in disguise?
I'd say a couple of weeks, I think.
Okay.
I think the initial was sort of the disappointment of, I didn't get what I wanted to get. Didn't see now, like I've failed. And then it's sort of geared to, I've got a year now to try and maybe apply next year or to get apprenticeships. And I sort of looked into apprenticeships, and then it slowly sort of worked out that this doesn't seem like anything I'm ever going to enjoy. It's something that I could do, but the enjoyment level would just be so void that no matter, even if it paid really well, which a lot of them did, it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah.
So it was a few weeks of sort of, we don't really want to I should stay to the creatives. What creatives should I do? And then it was asking sort of my old like dance teachers and my old acting teachers, and it was like, oh, you should apply for these ones because these are the ones that would suit you, and hence somehow fluked into Erdang. Actually, it was really very fluky.
So you had this gap year, and did you like pretty much after those few weeks you realized you were on this gap year now, start applying straight away, or when did that happen? And tell me about that like process for you.
It was quite quick.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of them for the conservatoires. Erdang's it's a conservatoire, but it's attached to a university, so you still get a degree, but you apply through them directly. So at the time, it was attached to UEL. It's attached to someone else now. I think they sort of, it's just wherever they can get their degrees, I guess. But because they're quite strict on how you enter, you have to do like an audition process as well as having to have the UCAS credits and all of the stuff. So you kind of had to get quite early. So I applied to Erdang and Bird, which are both conservatoires, and then a few universities that did musical theatre as well. But yeah, it was quite quick to the applications, and you have to pay to audition, which is a wild thing. I never knew about. There was lots that I had to learn really quick because I'd done musical theatre, but I didn't know the actual
Process.
the process of getting into it properly.
I think it's the same in a lot of creative roles, like anything to do, like even acting, modelling, all that. It's the same. Like you have to fork out quite a lot of cash to try and make it. It's a big risk.
It is.
But obviously you go in with the idea that, hopefully this will pay off. So why musical theatre for you?
It was actually a weird choice. I'd never... So as a child, I always wanted to be an actor.
Okay.
And then obviously as I grew sort of teenage years and then, let's say, A-levels, and then applying for universities, it's sort of the idea of it seemed unfeasible. Society thinks that it's not a job. It's more of a hobby, as such is often what you hear. But I think I really wanted to do just acting, which is, I'd say, more so what I'm gearing towards now. But because at the time I was going to a youth theatre, and it just so happened that I was doing well dancing, it sort of seemed like the nice sort of curve into it. Because it was like, if I could dance well and I can get into musical theatre, I could then push from that into dance, into acting.
Nice.
Because it's all sort of, obviously that was very different, but it's all in the same sort of sphere of the creatives.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was a very fluky situation. Erdang it's quite particular in who they take.
Okay.
I wasn't a trained dancer for years, like a lot of people were. I just sort of went, oh, we'll apply. It just happened I got in, which is a very, selective thing.
So tell me about, you're in the door now, you've started. Did you take to it well? Did you realise, yes, I'm in a good environment now? Or was it a bit daunting? Like, how was that experience for you?
Very daunting.
Was it?
Honestly, it was terrifying. The first, let's say year actually, let's say a couple of weeks, month, year.
No, that's totally
was
fair.
a very steep learning curve. As I said, like I did dance, but I didn't like dance school dance.
Yeah.
So like, the first jazz lesson, it was like, oh, we're gonna just releves and tondus, and I was like, I don't even know what you're saying. I don't physically even understand the words here. And people were just doing things. I was like, oh, I'll just copy the shapes. Like, I just hope for the best. Yeah. It was a very steep learning curve, which I think back then it was very stressful. But now, having got through that, I think it's nice to be able to apply it to other things. Like, I don't feel that stressed in out of my depth situations a lot because I went through like 3 years of not knowing anything, or knowing a lot less to begin with than some people dance since they were 4. I think I started when I was 14, 15.
Did you experience imposter syndrome going in there?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I knew a lot less than it was just like, oh, as I say, like it's very selective. I feel like I fluked in my way in somehow based off of must have been some talent that they saw. But it
Trust
seemed,
the process.
Yeah, it was just you've seen something, so I'll accept that
That's good,
you
though.
know what you've seen because you're the professionals.
That's a good attitude though.
Yeah.
Because obviously some people be like, I shouldn't even be here.
Sometimes, yeah.
And like, I think a lot of people would have experienced that in different areas of their life, and it's definitely not the most proactive way of thinking, but it's a very normal way of thinking for a lot of us. So that's why I said I wanted to ask, because I was curious. Maybe so your attitude was, I think, you experienced a little bit of imposter syndrome, but I think your attitude seemed to be relatively positive towards you being there, which was good.
Yeah, it was more I'm not at the level in a very non like deprecating way. It's that I'm deprecating, self-deprecate. That's the word, isn't it? I think
Oh,
so.
we go with it. Well, I always, whatever people say,
Way.
I'm like, just go with
Yeah,
it.
that's the word. That's English for sure. But I feel like I'm usually quite aware of my actual ability, even if it's much lower than everyone else's. But it's more of it was a knuckle down situation. Like, I'm here now. I've tried so hard to get to here. If I don't now rapidly progress, then I will be left behind, and I've kind of wasted. It's a lot of money as well, dance, because they're not regular uni prices.
Yeah.
Big student loans.
It's a bit like America, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
So what did you do in terms of, like you said, you felt that you were slightly below the level? So did you do something extra to try and compensate for that, or did you just kind of, as I say, trust the process and go with it? Or like, how did that experience evolve? Because I know you said after 1 year you suddenly kind of felt more...
A bit more in place.
Yeah, but I'm just curious about that experience for you, like that process and what that looked like.
It was a lot of extra training.
Okay.
I said, like, a lot of the schedules changed throughout the years or terms, but a lot of it was most days at 8:30 starts, 5-6 o'clock finishes. Like, it's a full day. Like, it's not it was how you can get a job on the side. You kind of can't. It's Monday to Friday, all day, every day. So it was a lot of, any time we'd have a break, I'd practice something, or I'd go to the gym, or my quickest thing was, I used to be a bit more muscular than I am now, because I knew it was a thing that if you were a dancer and you were a male, if you were muscly, it kind of took away from the fact that you potentially had a lower ability because you had a different look.
So, okay, so in the sense that you would probably get more gigs if you were more muscly because of the way you looked?
Yes, it's a very looks-orientated industry,
okay.
so if you could fit a mould.
I didn't know if it was just the kind of aesthetic side, or was it the fact that they think, oh, he's strong, so he could probably do more moves?
It is both.
Oh, it's both.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's if you're stronger, then you might get a dance when you've got a partner, or they might need you to do some lifts, or they might need you to move stuff, but then the aesthetic also works. So I think it was, my first year was a lot of, I stayed late, I went to the gym before college, I'd go after college if had to, like I'd book studios and I'd just kind of practice things, or I'd be learning even the phrases. Like, obviously ballet's a lot of French, and I had no idea what any of it meant, like, at all. So it'd be just like, I'd be in the studio and like, these are tondus, and I would just tondu for like an hour. Wow. It's like, I get that now. I've done all the shapes, all the places. So tomorrow when we do ballet, I know at least I'm going to be able to do the tondus correct.
Yeah.
So it's like that. It was a lot of that. The first year was very sort of all-consuming, and I lived at home as well, so I lived about an hour away.
Okay.
So it was sort of, I'd get up at 6 maybe, travel in for 7, go to the gym for an hour, go to ballet, do all my classes in the day, maybe go to the gym straight after college at 6, and then book a studio until 9, and then get home for 10. It was that sort of...
It's quite intense.
Yeah.
But not just mentally, like physically, it must have been quite intense.
Very draining, yeah.
Yeah.
I probably, even though I was potentially looked very healthy, it was potentially my most unhealthy time.
Oh.
It was a lot of like quick food and protein shakes and energy, a lot of energy. I'll be honest, I'm an energy drink fiend.
Okay.
From this, I think it's how it stained my life.
Right. Yeah, I think I've heard that a lot, actually. It's very, very true. In like the idea of like what is presented on the outside is not always actually what's going on the inside. And like for some people, they talk about, okay, mentally, but in this case, it's actually physically. I look super, super healthy, and people, like I see, even with like celebrities, they talk about this a lot. They say the times that the magazines are like complimenting them and, putting them in positive light, going, look how weight loss, like amazing, all this, or whatever it is. And then they come out, like I remember like Lily Allen spoke about it. I'm pretty sure Ariana Grande has come out about it recently, and just like the times everyone thinks I look the best and healthiest, it's like I was completely, in their case there was miserable in terms of mental health, but like even their diet and stuff was not great because they were often starving themselves. So
Yeah,
this
I
is,
the opposite. I had to eat everything. It was
yeah, so this is super
as
interesting.
much as I could because I'm quite like skinny disposition.
Yeah, okay.
So it was like I need to build now. So
Yeah.
it was like a 1,000 calorie protein shake twice a day,
Yeah.
plus all the caffeine you could physically have as a human.
I think as well for men it's super like stressful in terms of I mean obviously women get a hard time in terms of societal expectations and image, but I do believe that men get it really bad as well. I don't think people speak enough about that. Like this, like so many men, and obviously this is nothing to say that you had this, but like
Yeah.
I actually know a lot, and it's on a different scale now, but have like things like body dysmorphia.
Oh, I'm sure I had it some. Yeah, it
It's-
was never big enough.
Yeah, and I'm like, look, for me, I'm actually quite an advocate of just like looking after our boys, looking after our men. Like, I don't think they actually get enough attention for stuff like that because I there's these people that could be ripped, right? And they're like, oh, and then they show me a photo, and it's like where they were just say only like slight six pack and not ripped, and then they're like, oh, look how fat I was, and I'm going. No, but it's like that's scary to me. Like I'm like, how on earth is that like fat, you know? But they actually believe that, and I see this a lot with men, like a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's different types of standards. I think for women, particularly with like the beauty side of like makeup and hair and stuff. But I think for men, I've noticed it with physique a lot. Hair, I've actually noticed with men as well. They get really conscious and stuff over that, and I'm just like, it's not. It may affect it in a slightly different level between men and women, but it's definitely there. And I was like, so when you brought that up, I was like, oh yeah, that's food for thought there. You know, that it's not always as simple for men.
It was hard as well because it actively. It's not that it's just a thing that was personal. It was this also would help my job, and at that time it was like the job is, as you said, I was training so many hours a day. It's kind of all consuming.
Yeah.
Like that's your dancer world is dancer world, and you're not really in any other space when you're in it because it does take all of your time and all your energy. So it was like but this is what I need to look like to fit dancer world.
Yeah, it's a slightly different to just like, oh, I'm going through something and that's why it's affecting my body. For you, it's like there's a different type of pressure.
Yes,
it's like I need this for my career.
Yeah. Otherwise, I've just wasted the whole year of training.
Yeah.
Because I don't look how I'm. I'm going to be honest. It's better now, dancer wise. I believe I'm not really in the dance industry anymore.
Yeah, fair enough.
But like I've seen, there has been quite a change. But I say even after graduation, it was a whole thing. There was like a good many a year where it was like I only did dobs. I'd be topless at some point. Some point in this job, I would be topless, and that was just the standard.
Yeah.
And even now, it's a bit strange that I'm not anymore all the time. It's like, oh, there's no topless scenes in this. My shirt's not open.
Did you feel? This might sound like a strange question. I'm actually serious. Did you feel more comfortable with the topless the topless ones in the sense because you'd worked for that and you're like, okay, this is what I'm used to,
100%.
or so you did?
Yeah.
This is interesting now because some people think, oh no, actually, if I'm covered up, I don't have to worry about it. But there's another side of the coin. So tell me about that.
You did. You get used to it. It's odd when you're not. So even now, I think I joke about it all the time if I'm doing a film like, I should have topless scene in this. I'm not prepared for that because I'm not where I used to be, and that would probably be more stressful now. But yeah, you do. You sort of get used to that's my role. I know what I'm here for this. That's the bit I'm going to do. At some point, I'm going to be oiled and I'll be or like because it fits. Like I'd asked for it. I remember in my third year show.
Yeah.
I had one song, and it was like it's supposed to be like a Jamaican song. It was Legally Blonde. Yeah. But it's the Jamaican DJ, and they had me in like a little like a string t-shirt thing. I was like, but I'm trying to get agents, so I was like, I'd like to do it topless. I'm going to ask the director to ask wardrobe, and it ended up topless because I'd worked for it. Right. But it'd be like every rehearsal, I'd just be doing like pull-ups when I wasn't doing anything else. So like backstage, I'd be doing push-ups because that's what I kind of prepared mentally for. So even as I say, turning up to jobs after I graduated, it'd be got to do some push-ups before I'd wake up, do my push-ups or do my sit-ups because I'm probably going to be topless. And if I'm not, it's like, oh, waste of my time. Like,
no, honestly, like this is insightful because from an outside perspective, you know, someone can look at that and like, oh, right, yeah. But then actually, when you're in it, it's not just like you're surrounded by that,
Yeah.
right? You're in an environment that it's like, this is the norm. And it's the same in the modeling industry. It's like you have to, and it's okay, like there's an element of it. If it's based on looks, it's based on looks. Like that's,
Yeah,
I'm not
and
actually
that's-
necessarily putting it all down, by the way. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just for me, it's intriguing because it's like you're learning what I'm learning and hopefully other people are learning. It's like what it is like to be in that mindset at that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sharing your experience there. I generally, I just love hearing about this sort of stuff. So I can't even speak English now. I'm like, I love hearing about this sort of stuff just because it's perspective, right?
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about. Your second event, we're going to jump ahead a little bit now. So COVID and lockdown, okay. You were able to take stock of your career, transitioning from musical theatre to straight acting. It allowed you to start working on your own short film and begin creating, or at least begin the idea to create music. So this time gave you the confidence to not worry if what you created wasn't perfect. Thus, Sycamore Studios was created. Yeah. Okay, so there's a few little things kind of want to unplug in there. So tell me about first of all, that transition from musical theatre to straight acting. What was in terms of your mindset, what instigated that?
It was a bit of a weird one. It was, as I said before, it was something that I've always wanted to do, acting, like film acting, TV acting. I would have said back then potentially stage acting as well, even though now it gives me such stress, even just the thought of it. But so I feel like just before COVID, I lucked out. I think for that year I was looking to maybe start to do some acting, but obviously I was trained in musical theatre and that was sort of what I was more accustomed to. Obviously that was what professionally I was doing, I'd say. So just before COVID, I booked a job abroad. It was a feature film as like one of the 5 lead males, I'd say.
Okay.
It was like a friend's holiday kind of film. It was like a whole month in Serbia.
Oh my God, I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah.
I think when I did that film thing with you, you were planning that you knew about it at that point. You were telling me about it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to shut up now and just go back to you because I remember.
It was really like, it was for a friend. They couldn't do it. They put me forward, and it was all just confusing. But obviously, that's where I wanted to go. So it was like the opportunity.
Yeah.
So that sort of happened, and in my mind, it's like, well, I'm an actor now. Like I'm in the acting world.
Yeah. In Serbia, you went.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I thought, that's it now. Like I'll come back and I'll book other acting jobs. Because you do, don't you? It's got one thing, and it's like I'm doing well. It just happened, and then obviously the whole COVID thing. I wasn't booking acting jobs anyway, but then the whole industry just sort of crashed completely.
Yeah.
Out of all, I mean, obviously all the industries crashed, but it just got ruined.
No, the creative arts was a total
destroyed.
disaster.
Yeah. I think even now, a lot of the indie filmmakers, because obviously they couldn't fund themselves during COVID, had to do other things, and now just I feel like a lot haven't turned back because it seems stressful, right? So I feel like that time allowed me to then, while I couldn't do any other jobs, because obviously COVID was just everywhere upon us. You probably hear about COVID all the time. I do apologise for being
absolutely fine.
that guy. Oh yeah, COVID.
No. It's we have a few guests have mentioned it, but it's quite expected in some respects even though it's a common theme for some people. It's there because it was a big part of someone's life and it affects people. So, but every story is still different. So that's what we're here. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it just gave me time to stop for a minute. As I say, like the dancing thing is so encompassing of your life, even when you're not working, even when you're just unemployed for 3 months, it's still like, I need to look this way, I need to train this, I need to point my feet every day, and you'd just be doing something to do with fixing something that is probably never noticeable by anyone else apart from yourself, because it's the dancing mentality, I guess, is everything can be better. continuously, which you never get to anywhere where it's good enough.
Perfectionist.
Kind of, yeah. And when you get to the thing that you wanted, you say, oh, well, that should be this instead of that, because that's now wrong, because it was this before. It's continuous.
Wow, it's quite meticulous.
Yeah. I don't think you ever can perfect it because it's so individual and stylistic anyway, but you try. So I think it gave me the time to stop worrying so much about that, because it was like there are no jobs. There's nothing I can do. Why don't I look in some of the things that I've always wanted to do that I haven't allowed myself to do because of I'm always trying to get a job or trying to do something else, which is hence the filming sort of came about. So it sort of started with that. I had abundance of time, 1,000 ideas that I'd had that I never put down anywhere because you know life gets in the way. So I think it was nice. It allowed me that sort of get things done that I wanted to do, that I was sort of worried about potentially doing, or
why were you worried?
I don't know. It's the social aspect of it, I guess. It's the once you create something and put it out, it's judged on the same platform as everything else that's out. So as say, like with my first short film, and they're very, very but just me in the house. It was COVID.
Yeah.
Me in the house with the phone. Literally. Yeah. The first one's called Outside Man. The joke is at the end he opens the door and he's like, I'm outside now.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
I remember watching that.
Yeah.
It's good though.
But it's that as soon as it's out, it's now on the same level as Hollywood short films, which it's not. But someone who doesn't know you will look at it. If it comes up on their YouTube, it's the same as, if Idris Elba's got a short film out.
Yeah.
You're compared, and it's the whole mine's not as good as that. But until you, I think, as you said, we were talking about earlier at the start, until you put it out there, until you do one and then do another and do another, it will never be as good as that unless you luck out that you book Idris Elba for your short film somehow, and you book
But Idris Elba had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really wanted to kind of delve into that, what you kind of raised here, which is like the element of, it kind of goes into perfectionism, right? Because that is kind of why someone, basically they don't want to put something out there because it's not perfect, it's not ready, right?
Yeah.
But I completely empathise with this. Now, I empathise with it in many respects in terms of I've stalled certain things. I have a slightly weird issue, which I would almost underthink. I would literally like sod it, do it, and I kept playing out all this stuff.
Yeah.
And there's things I'm like, oh, I probably should have thought that through a little bit more. But I actually really like. I used to find myself so annoying, like upon reflection, that I was like, oh, why can't I just think things through a bit more? But actually, I think looking back, it's led me to where I am now.
Yeah.
So I'm actually really, really proud of myself for doing that. And it's the same for you. Like, you should be proud of that, because every big actor and dancer, model, like not even just in the creative arts, but other industries, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's always a risk. I think, like, I'm doing it right now, this whole podcast, and it goes out. Okay, like it's open for interpretation. It's open for comments and to be judged, but be judged positively as well. This is the thing. So I remember kind of thinking, like, you procrastinate a little bit, and you're like, okay. But then I think the why is important. Like, why you're doing something can help it. And if it's not, I think when you do something, you tend to procrastinate it more when you're not as confident with it. And whereas, like, I was like, okay, so getting over that, I think, was a really, really important thing. But yeah, I think when you go on, what I do to help me, and I find it's actually quite funny as well, is if you go onto the big like YouTubers or film stars and stuff like that, look at what their first video was.
Do the scroll down.
You can actually now go oldest on YouTube.
Oh.
Yeah. Or go to like a actor and look at their first film and look at them in it, and it's like, and we're talking like the really low budget ones if it's accessible. Like, that's just and that's not to go, let's scrutinize them and criticize them. I'm just on about, like, they did it, like they started off in a smaller scale thing, and they had to work their way up. And I think it's such a shame when people go, do you know what, I'll just wait until next year, I'll just wait until
until it's
because the reality is it's never going to be perfect. Like, I don't have the, I'm in my house, like, doing this, do you know what I mean? I don't have the studio yet, I don't have that, but we just build our own little one and we go for it. And then the idea is, like, what I used to think is I'm going to cringe looking back at, you know, the quality of, I don't know, something, or I always kind of take the piss out of myself. I said, oh, my vocab needs to improve. So I'm trying to read now and do word of the day just to improve my interviewing technique, genuinely. But now I've changed my attitude. I actually want to look back and go, oh, wow, look how far we've come. The idea is in 5 years' time or 10 years' time to be like, oh my God, baby Amy, she's trying, but she got there. You know, that's the kind of idea. So, no, I think fair play to you. Like, I always see you just putting your stuff out there, doing your thing and trying, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, I think I've taken more to it, and I think the films helped me with other things to then be like, you know what, as you said, I'll try, because the first one's never going to be the best, no matter what you've got. Like, you can literally have every single facility you need, unless someone else does it. Someone who's already done 1,000 and already done their first, it's going to have something wrong, or not wrong, but something that you're going to look back and think, remember that? I could have done it this way, because I know that now, I've learnt that. But I think it's since the films, I've been a lot more open to, and you say it's not as super brash of, that's fine, I'll still put the effort in.
Oh, for sure.
But it's to the level that I can.
Exactly.
And the level that you can is only going to go up if you do.
No, 100%. Like, from doing the first season of Getting There with Amy Claire, that was, as I say, just audio.
Yeah.
So my next step was like try to make it audio visual. You know, it opens up a new realm of opportunity, but I don't expect that this is going to be Diary CEO level one day. Steve, one day, gonna rival you. Gonna rival your ass. No, I'm just kidding. I love you, Steve, don't worry.
That's it now. That one section's going to be cut.
We're
out
going
of
to edit and
context.
post. What were you thinking? No, so, but for me, like, I actually find inspiration from these people. Like, when I'm looking at these high-end, like, especially with someone like, you know, Stephen Bartlett, we're just using him as an example. Like, he really did work from the ground up. Like, so I just find that inspirational. So it's the same thing as, like, sometimes we look at what people have now, but this is, again, why am I doing this podcast? It's like, can we understand that people are working their way, and that's all we're doing? So yeah, but your kind of gateway now into music. So you said the acting and doing those videos and those short films kind of opened up this new door.
Yes.
And kind of got you into music.
Yes.
Tell me about that. What?
So it's kind of the same thing. It's something that I've always wanted to do. I don't think I ever had the confidence. It was the confidence, the know-how, the skill, which I know YouTube's out there. You can learn, honestly, everything I know about music, I learned from just YouTube videos. How do I edit this? Because I edit all of my own stuff. I don't produce the beats, because that's a whole different thing. That's equally confusing.
Well, that's producing is, there's a lot of skill in that as well.
Yeah, it's
big
a
area.
lot. It's also something that I don't feel, as I looked into it initially, like, do I want to start producing my beats? And it's something that I didn't enjoy. So I thought, you know what, it's not something for me. The amount of time that would go into learning to how to do at any standard that's acceptable is going to be time that I'm just going to not be happy. And I thought the music is the rapping is what I wanted to do. Okay. So let me sort of outsource the beats to someone who does enjoy that, and then we can both help each other, sort of thing. It's you know, twin growth, I guess, more so than I'll do every single thing, because to some extent I try, because that's me as a person. I do everything I can, but obviously you have to hand over something at some point, because you're only human. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that helped start. I think my first song came out in 2021, in September. As I say, like, the films, and then it was like, oh, we do some music as well, because do you know what? I'm at that point now where I'm willing to try, and I'm willing to accept if people don't like it, that's fine, because I've tried and I am happy with it. Even looking back now, as you said, there's some things and I'm like, ooh, that could have been, like, I could do that better just now. Yeah. Without much effort, but a lot better with a lot less stress.
But that's a sign of growth, you see. This is the thing. Like, I used to have a different attitude to this. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm really happy now that it's changed for the better. Whereas, and I'm sure lots of people can empathise with this, but, like, looking back, it could be photos, it could be videos, it could be whichever. Just going cringe, oh my God, awkward, and delete. For me, I'm like, okay, there's things, you know, if you're really uncomfortable with something. But I think like changing the attitude and going, right, I did it. And the very fact that I can look back and go, oh, I know exactly what I would have changed means that you've developed, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And I only recently, it might sound bizarre, but like I only kind of recently clicked that. I was like, even though I know I mentioned earlier, I almost underthink with things, and I don't really have too much of a problem with walking the walk after talking the talk, which I know is a big issue for some people. I'm trying to run the run now.
Yeah.
That's my I'm like, okay, Amy does too many things, and now we're going to just try and focus it a little bit. But I'm still going to do multiple things. So watch this space.
That's honestly my issue as well.
Yeah.
I was like, yesterday, like, I'm doing too many things now. Like,
Yeah.
what do I need to focus on one of them for at least a week? Like,
Yeah.
because nothing's getting done at the moment. It's everywhere.
Yeah. No, this is my mission now. But I think once you like, if you genuinely enjoy something, like just do it. And there's so many people that will give things a go, but they just quit. So just be that person who doesn't is kind of what I tell myself.
Yeah.
But once you're like, you know, the whole thing about the 1% initiative.
Oh.
So this I find is like a lot more doable. So when someone's like a perfectionist or they have too high standards for themselves, cough, Amy, especially a few years ago, I think that it can stop you completely. Whether it's exams, podcasting, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard a few different podcasts, read a few different books now that mention this whole 1% thing. And it's basically the idea that make a 1% improvement on your next project, which your next project could mean your next video.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's still in the same like realm of the or topic or whatever, but it's like that 1%. So some you will do more than one. That's the thing. Like you might actually have a 10% improvement on your next video, but like, and that's great. But to not then going, oh, I need to have 10% again, because that's a big figure. Like that's a big figure. So for me, my mission now is like just make the next video 1% better, at least if I can. But then not get bogged down. The reality is there will be some that's very difficult to do that, even though it's just 1%. But just to try, and like even if it's like, oh, that transition of how I edited that title is now, oh, that's better. That's my 1%.
That's not, I like that.
Yeah.
Because it's doable. It's doable each time.
Yeah.
It takes not the pressure off, but it takes the stress of, well, this needs to be that now.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's a big jump. Like that's very different from what it was.
Yeah. And if you find something that manages to be 10% and it's doable, then happy days. But it's like, I think people procrastinate because their goal is too high. Or sorry, no, the goal can be high. Sorry, keep the goal high, but the method of achieving it is crazy. It's like the ladder is like, you know.
Yeah. Physically impossible.
Yeah. And the thing is that realistically, if you could give this advice to someone you loved or a friend or something, you're like, oh, and they came to you, you'd be like, whoa, slow it down a bit, and you know, keep things going, but just the standard sometimes is like you want to try and achieve a high standard, but as you correctly mentioned a minute ago, like what is your best? Just do your best, and sometimes that's not going to be Marcus Bromley and you know,
as
Mr.
good as
Beast
the best
and stuff.
person in the world. That's I think is a lot of it as well. Like to say, I don't want to blame social media, but a lot of it is we have so much content from everywhere now that you only see, but a lot of the time you see like the top level, the top 1% in the field. And obviously that is the goal, it's the strive, but it's unless you are the top 1%, of course they're going to have better things. Like of course they've got studios. They've got teams. They have 6 camera. Yeah, so they'll have some of them might even have the script written, but like everything's done potentially just doing one bit, and the editing's then done, and then of course they can put out 10 videos a week, because not that they're doing less, but you know they've got a team, as you say, to do the other aspects that take the time, or the little details that do make the 1% differences continuously. You've not got to worry about, because it's like, well, as long as my 1% is now, I'm just hosting. And because
what's in your control, really. No, that's it. I mean,
but that's what you see now. Like that's what you see a lot of, because that's everywhere.
And it's intimidating.
It
is. It's intimidating. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I would be completely lying to you now if I said every day I'm just raring to go. even with this podcast. You know, like I'm not always raring to go. I think because my why, or my kind of like the reasoning behind this, why I'm doing it, because I've done it before, it helps. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing. I'm sure I'll cringe like listening back to the quality of like the first one, like season 1, but because I did that, that's what gave me this kind of like motivation to do this and just take it up a notch. But as I say, going back, I'd be totally lying if I said like, you know, every day I wake up completely motivated to research new guests and edit and, you know, market it and stuff. Like it's a lot, but what I've learned now is use that when you are motivated, keep going. But also I'm learning a lot about commitment versus motivation. It's a recent thing I've been reading in a book, and I'm like, ooh, actually that's good to know. Like you're committed now, and that's kind of what I'm trying to reinforce for me. So we're just gonna keep on going, keep on going. So tell me now about your kind of next move. Is it within music now? You obviously got Sycamore Studios. Is the music tying in with Sycamore Studios, or is it a slightly different entity? Or
at the moment they've kind of, I think, a bit merged. The goal would be eventually to have 2 separate entities. Obviously, a lot of it is just me doing all the things, every aspect of everything. So it is very sort of one thing will grow while the other's stagnant, and then I'm happy now here, and now I'll focus here for weeks, months, depending on obviously what needs doing. Which actually I find, as you say, the motivation and the consistency. I find that's what helps me. Is that if I had one thing, I'm a hyper focus. So I hyper focus on one until I'm so fatigued of it that I can't do it anymore for however long time. So now I've learned, I learned this about myself very recently. I jump. My mum always says I'm really faddy because I just like, well, I'm doing this intense and now I'm doing this. But if I don't have something else to do intensely, I'll intensely do nothing. Which is, it's like super lazy. It's really weird. Like I consume content just because I have to hyper focus on something. So I'm hoping to separate them so that I can have one and then the other, and then obviously potentially have people in charge of things, so I'm not just doing...
It's the goal.
Yeah,
I'm like, future Amy, please.
Yeah. Please say you've paid an editor.
Yeah, I think delegation is really important, actually. But obviously financial constraints is a thing. But yeah, that's my goal as well, is eventually just like, okay, using my skill set. It's called, I don't know if you've heard of the term, like deep work versus shallow work. Yeah. So engaging in what your skill set really is. It's like, okay, mine won't be editing. I like the creative side of it. But like, I'm not bad with tech. I mean, I have to be decent to set this up, but it's like, well, thank you, brother, for also helping me. Shout out to Dan, who's basically, this entire equipment is basically his. But yeah, I've lost my train of thought again. Classic. What was I saying? Deep work, yes. Kind of the idea and the goal, right, is just to engage with what you fundamentally bring to the table, what you enjoy. It doesn't mean that you have to enjoy every aspect of it, because that's not reality. Like, I think in every career and passion, there's going to be like, oh, I have to deal with this, I have to apply for this.
Job.
That's totally expected. But in terms of like your skill set, you know what I mean? And that's where the hard bit is. It's like when you're starting off in anything, you have to put so much in to get quite little out.
Yes, because it's the learning bits of everything. Like I can film, I can't film. And I don't think I don't enjoy it enough. I enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it enough to get to that level.
Yeah.
So at some point, I will have cinematographer because you know what you're doing. You enjoy it more. You are good. Like I'm okay. It's that I'm acceptable for now. But in terms of, you said the delegation, like I edit out of necessity. If I could have an editor, I would love it.
Yeah.
I'd edit away, because if that's what you enjoy, I'm really happy to see your outcome of it.
Yeah.
Because it's that thin line. You say you put a lot in to begin with to get very little back, because it's sort of scratching the surface on all the professions, as opposed to I can do this one very well if there's other people doing this one and this one and this one. But until then, I'm doing all four as best as possible,
Yeah.
which so obviously brings.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
Like, and I totally understand. Like, I'm doing the same thing. Like, I've launched a few different things before, and I have absolutely no regrets because I've learned from those. Even things I've applied, like when I launched Mazzy, that actually did that sold t-shirts to like people I didn't know. Just
Yeah.
think it wasn't. I'm gonna be doing a whole video actually on my previous. Like, I want to be quite honest about my own stuff as well, and like I'm gonna be doing a whole video on what happened there and stuff. So look out for that, folks. But yeah, it's you learn from different things you've done, but you had to do everything. It's like the finance, the marketing, the every area of admin, the strategic planning. It's like but there's an element of fun to it. There's an element of like, well, there's a big element of learning to it.
Yeah.
But I try to. I mean, I know now. Like, there's some serious like mistakes I've made, and I'm like, nothing so crucial and fundamental that it's kind of life changing. But I look back and I'm like, okay, whoa, that was messy.
Yeah.
Like, that was not done correctly at all, you know? And now I'm kind of like...
I think that's needed, though.
Yeah.
Like, I find the same, and it's the looking back to say, that wasn't done correctly, and now I'm aware, so I won't do that. Even, as you say, it's not life-threatening, it's not life-changing, it's not drastic, or I'm cancelled now.
Yeah.
It's just, should have done it this way, and now I know to do it this way. Do you know what? I could even redo it at some point way better, with a lot less stress, because all the other stuff of it, like I've learnt those skills now. They're a lot easier to do because I'm not like, like when the first short film I did, it was everything. Open the editing software and I don't have any clue. It's like, how do I cut? How do I put the sound in? Like, so everything was like, click one button and then I got to watch another 30-minute tutorial.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow I'll watch the same 30 minutes because it's not gone in because I've learnt 4 things yesterday and they can't have all gone in. I remember one thing, like B does this, like that. But it's a crazy learning curve for very little reward.
Yeah. It's actually so funny because when I was editing season 1, I remember going... I've said this in like different episodes, but like I started it because I'm just sick of all the... I've got this, and I'm very, very happy for people. I'm not trying to like take that away from anyone.
Yeah.
It's not like an envy of going screw you or anything. It's just more like, oh, that's a little bit of pressure, so I want to do something about it. So I remember coming off social media, and then I was like, okay, I just went into my dad and I went, I think I want to do a podcast. And he kind of rolled his eyes because he's so used to me going, I want to do this.
That's so similar.
And my dad just laughed and he was like, okay, yeah, do it, Aim. I think it's great because he just wants me to like, he's like, you're a butterfly, like, do your thing.
Yeah.
And then I think I just ordered these mics, which we still use because you know what, they work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I ordered them, and then I just started messaging people, and that's what I need to take from it. It's like I do it, like you just try and just go for it and get some guests on and
see what happens.
Yeah, but then editing, I remember going, what do I do now? Because I realized I don't know even what apps I need to use. Now my brother's a software engineer and he's insane with tech. He's so good with it, but he wasn't like living with me at that point. So it was like, okay. Then like, what do I do? But so I decided to go off like what you did and just tutorial it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it worked, but it's so funny because I was showing Dan, this is like a couple of years ago, I was showing him like how I edited it, and he was like,
what?
Yeah, he's like, you can just do it like in that. It might be a bit easier. Like how I was recording it before and everything, I was like, oh my God. But I just winged it.
You could have just clicked this.
Yeah.
You could have just done everything. You're like, oh.
Oh, I was trying to like, what's that do? I'm like turning dials on like Final Cut Pro, on Logic Pro, and I'm like, okay, that kind of does something.
I still have these moments though. Like I talked to my friend 3 months ago. Bear in mind, I've filmed loads of things, but I've filmed enough things now that I should know these. Like these are, he was basic information.
Yeah.
And I said, oh yeah, because I hate having to line up the audio files with the visual files. And he was like, oh, if you just right click, there's just, you click the button and it does it for you. And it will just, and I was like, that was that's why I hate editing. That was my biggest passion of hate for editing, because I'm literally like, is that right? Oh no, the mouse movement at different times.
Yeah.
Is that right? No, literally I would spend half an hour on one file. He's like, oh, no, you just click a button and it does it for you. I was like, oh, years I've been doing like, I've wasted weeks, like hours and days, just lining them up. It's that, like, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, okay, thank you, because I will never go back to that now.
Yeah.
I got passionate hate for that.
So your third event, June this year. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I love this. The beginning of your wildflower campaign to help save the bees.
Yeah,
Another
I know.
great day of saving the bees. It's something that you think is important and wanted to do for a while. Finally decided to make it happen. It's been so nice to start and got me into mead making, something you knew very little about. You're reminding me a lot of me, actually.
It just,
It's
out
just
of the blue,
goes,
literally,
yeah.
it's just like, I'm doing that today. I've ordered all the stuff. I've ordered all the stuff. I have all the equipment.
Let's see. So you've got, it sparked an interest in horticulture. I feel you, as I said, I was gardening yesterday. Which you'd like to do in the next step of your life. Right, so we've gone from acting in music and creative arts to being creative with the bees. So I want to know
Jumps
everything.
around, doesn't it? Economics, finance, acting. Like,
Yeah. So
plants. Why?
tell me about this of June. What you said is something you actually wanted to do. So this is something I didn't know about you. So yeah.
It's a really random. So I was trying to think of the exact point and the reasoning why. Everyone's got like the apple fell on my head and I discovered gravity. I don't have those. I just, as you can tell, they're very wide spans of things in my life. I think I overthink in I'm going to say a positive way.
Yeah.
That like it's probably very bad for you, but I'm constantly doing something in my brain. Something's happening. There's never like a minute of silence. It's like something, I could do this now. No, I should do this. I've got time for this. I kind of don't have time for anything, but I do have time for everything, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. This was me a few years ago.
Yeah, when you were saying it, you're like, oh, because I've got the podcast and we're going. This is kind of very
6
similar.
like part-time jobs, just like, let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll be, today it's happening.
Yeah.
And it's all happening this week and nothing else will be a focus.
But do you see the way I was like, remember I mentioned like, in a way it's underthinking. But even though there's a negative to like, okay, you don't focus it as much, the obviously positive is that you do it and you try
Yes.
it, right? And I think before there's that kind of, I don't know if you got this, I'm very curious to ask now. I would be like constantly like, Amy, what are you doing? Like, can you not just sit still with it? Like, can you just, and I used to feel really guilty. I used to beat myself up a lot, mentally, not physically, because that might be a bit more extreme, but yeah. And now I'm kind of like, okay, that was, especially in the 20s, like I was like, just do your thing,
I
Aim.
roll with it now.
Yeah, like just go with it. And so many people don't try, like don't be getting annoyed at yourself for trying.
Yeah.
Even if it is a little bit out there and not conventional or whatever. But back to you, Lewis. Tell me.
It's kind of is that. It's just well, I want to do this. The bees. The bees is it's seemingly random. There's not an actual event. As I say, there's not an event. It's not one day I saw a bee and I got sad. It was just like I think a slow trigger on. I should be doing something to help something or someone, or not that I have a huge presence or any way, got massive following that I can be like, hey guys, save the bees, and the bees are saved.
Yeah.
But it's
That'd be pretty impressive.
that would be. But it's I don't know. I think it's sort of that obligation without the obligation to do some good if you can. So I think stemming from that, bees have always sort of been a fascination. Bees, butterflies, I'm that person, honestly. I'll be walking my girlfriend and I'll just be, oh, look at that bird. And she'd be like, what, are you okay? Just look at it. Just look at its head. It's cool.
His feathers.
Yeah. And it's so very random.
Yeah.
I'll just be like, oh, look at him over there. Anyway, it's that.
Do you know the species
Often.
now?
A little bit.
Okay.
So it's, as I say, it's more just I'm fascinated with things. As you said, like when I came in, it was like, whoa, it's that. It happens a lot, just sporadically. So I think it's sort of all boiled down to what could I actually do with my resources and my level of, I don't want to use the word fame because by no means, but my level of as an influence then.
Yeah.
what could I actively help? So it was I could help the bees. It's quite a simple thing to do. It really is just planting some seeds. Like it's that simple, and getting other people to plant seeds. I actually have some for you in my little bag. That's the only reason I bought this bag is so I can carry around seeds. It has other stuff in it now as well.
It's just this giant bag of seeds.
It's like little packets. Honestly, it's really bad because I know I
wildflower?
look like a drug dealer because it's like, oh, there's a little packet from my little man bag.
I might just get a little cameo of us in a minute, just going.
Yeah, drug dealer. Yeah, here's a little Sycamore, the drug dealer.
Yeah, maybe
That's the
we
cut.
could do a campaign and we get all drug dealers out there.
To give seeds.
Yeah, the deal is that if you give someone
Weed.
it has to be a different type of weed.
What the
Weed,
bees like.
drugs, whatever you're doing. Just can you tell them to just plant some wildflower on it? Lads, go on, you can do this.
That is it, though. I've been
I
trying
say
to
lads
convince
because
people.
I mean
Lads,
maybe
go on.
I'm stereotyping, but I actually I would say the ratio of men to women drug dealing
I'd
is
probably put it up more men. Yeah,
yeah. So
don't cancel me.
and it's at that moment the podcast got cancelled. No, I mean that would be actually, I find that really funny actually. I know we're digressing, but this is a part of it too. Like imagine it's a big campaign.
That's
if
the
you're
campaign.
drug
Yeah.
dealing,
To catch a drug dealer.
Wildflower, man.
I got some flowers for you guys. What?
Oh, that'd be so funny.
But honestly, that's what I look. I know I look like. I look crazy. I'll do a show sometimes, and after the show, I'll be handing out little packets. Like I'm like, I know the venue thinks this, but these are seeds, guys. Like it's just some seeds to save the bees. Yeah, that's kind of. I guess where it started from is the what can I do now? Because as much as I'm someone who, as you say, like just jumps into projects, I'm also, well, not so much now, a lot more before, I think, someone who would wait. It's like when I get to here, I'll do this. Like when I've got 100,000 followers, I'll then start the bee campaign because it will reach 100,000 people. And then I really had to stop and think, well, I can do it with 1,000 followers. It might reach 1,000 people, and they might reach 1,000 people, and that's then a million. You know, it can go any way.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, I've got the followers to do it. I could use anything. I could get someone else with the followers to do it if they're happy to just talk about it. It doesn't matter how the ends meet, I guess. And it's such a simple thing to do, honestly. Like I bought a box of packets of seeds, and I just give them to people, and that is it. Like it's that simple. And if they ask them to send pictures, so that I can potentially get pictures to get other people invested in the campaign, and it's that simple.
Yeah.
I think it's just starting.
I love this campaign, especially when it's like the bees, because we absolutely need them. We can't survive without them, and people hear that, but I don't think they actually quite understand like the level.
Oh yeah, they're
I don't understand.
Without the bees, there's no us.
Yeah, this is
There's
the thing.
no anything.
But like, yeah, I know it's and like as much as like, oh, we can grow like food in like factories. Well, yeah, but not actually that
You
much.
can't breathe.
Yeah.
It's
And I think like I always like I remember like a bee landed on me. This is when I was I was back in Ireland at this point now, and it peed on me.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, there's a big fat bumblebee, which I love. I love the bumblebees. I
Yeah.
think they're so cute. And I remember it's like, it's peeing on me. I was like, and I felt so blessed. I was like, oh my God, the honor. I know that's my weirdo side coming in, but
yes.
yeah, that's the hippie like side of me. Like, oh my God.
It's your hippie face.
Yeah. Well, I think my hippie phase was actually from birth. I just didn't unlock it.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you when you realise this
the
is who I
full
actually
potential
am?
of it is here now.
I
Yeah,
am
I
this
feel that
person.
100% though. Yeah.
I was like, when I engage with that kind of like nature stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, this is me. I feel like my true authentic self.
I'll go back to society and act normal.
I'm gonna just start dressing in like the monk clothes now and be like, yeah.
I'd love that. Honestly.
But let's do a trip to Nepal. Let's go.
If I could afford it, I would.
I was thinking
When this episode blows up, we'll do an episode over there.
Yeah. But going back with the bees thing, I actually found an interesting fact out recently enough. So my dad's really into gardening, and he basically plants his gardens around bees and wildlife.
So nice, yeah.
Yeah. So it's all like purples and blues because that's what attracts most of them. Also, I will show you a few photos of Dad's garden. He's got crazy sunflowers which attract bees like there's no tomorrow. He's like where he lives. I'm not going to mention the town for privacy purposes, but he's known to have like the nicest garden in that town
That
because
is
he
so cool.
purposely planted all this crazy flowers outside, like the front, even though most of people just have like tarmacs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, there's like these 3 meter long sunflowers, and you just see all the walkers past it, and they're like, oh, and they like take all the
Towering over
photos.
it.
It's really wholesome. But the fact that I found out, I was like, okay, so obviously people, they, it's great that everyone wants to kind of like help bees or whichever, but I actually found out, and I was like, oh, this is good for me to know, because I probably would have gone down this route myself. Just be careful in terms of honeybees. There's actually no shortage of honeybees, and I didn't know this.
Because we keep them.
Yeah, so we keep them, but what they actually do is they can kill off the other bees.
Oh.
Yeah, because not necessarily that they fight them, but because they are
all their
dominating, they take, yeah, exactly. So I thought this is like really big. Like, I don't understand why this is not out more. Like, you know, this is like quite fundamental. So they're saying, like, rather than just going, let me get more honey producing kind of farms and stuff. Oh yeah, but look, more bees.
Yeah, I did see that they kill the native bees to wherever they are.
Yeah.
Because they are so many of them in the
Yeah.
hives, whereas the other ones are solitary bees.
But it's the other ones that actually do crazy amounts of pollination. Like, they, in terms of there's certain species of like plants and flowers that will be flowers in this case, that, like, you know, rely on the other species and they'll die out. And then so I was like, oh my god, like, I genuinely didn't know that. So the best thing you can do is actually, like what you're doing, is wildflower. Let things grow, let things just look a bit crazy. Or it doesn't mean your whole garden has to look crazy, but like there has to be areas of someone's, like, when people just tarmac the whole thing, I'm like, oh God's sake, like, because it's
all the biodiversity's gone.
Yeah,
then.
it's
like,
gone. But even like I've seen it before. They're starting to do it, but I'm so tempted to do it myself. Is, do you know these, like, you know, when you're going down like motorways or highways or like whatever national roads, there'll be like this, in the middle, there'll just be like a strip of grass.
Yeah.
Right. And my dad always says it. He's like, oh, you see, we just throw a load of wildflower there now.
I've been thinking about doing this
Yeah.
recently, just buying like the flower bombs. The ones I have, you have
Yes.
to actually plant a bit,
Yeah.
otherwise they get eaten as seeds.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, if I just buy some flower bombs, I
Yeah.
can kind of do what I want
Yeah.
with them.
I know. I've
And
got
then
this power.
It's like, go! Oh, it's gone now. No one can stop
But
me.
what's the council gonna do? Like, oh, how
You
dare
can't.
you plant lovely flowers that make people
Well, I
smile?
looked it up. I was looking into planting trees and stuff as well. And apparently, you have to like apply to plant the tree. You have to apply to plant the tree and prove that you're going to be able to look after the tree
Yeah.
where it's planted.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed to just. Because I was like, well, you can just plant a tree, right? No, like you will be in trouble if they catch you
I
planting.
think because there's some species of trees, the way they grow and their roots, you have to.
Oh,
That's
this makes
why.
sense then,
Yeah,
okay.
but the wildflower is no issue. So you just like, as in, well,
check
I
it.
can't say that because I've actually haven't fact checked it, but I
Too
would
late
just do it
now.
anyway.
I've got my facts here.
Yeah, no, I mean, my rebellious, I'd be like, what are they going to do?
When I'm
for
arrested,
wildflower?
this will be
I'm
what
bail.
I come back to.
Yeah. What was I going to say? But I always think as well, like, do you know if you're ever feeling just shit? Like, you want to do something that's quite simple, but you feel good. Like, you will, like, go out and just plant some wildflower.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, you can just throw the seeds. It's not like you have to dig up. You
Very
literally
simple.
just throw the seeds, and like, that's it. You could have saved hundreds of bees. Like, that's literally the reality of it. It's so cool.
I even started looking into. It's so many insects pollinate.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, you know, everyone's like, what do wasps do? And I was like, what do wasps do? And it's like, wasps pollinate as much as bees. And it was like, well, okay. Like, everyone hates the wasps. So, like, obviously, Save the Bees is I can't even say it's my campaign, but it's obviously what I'm sort of the phrase of the campaign. But it is like, save the butterflies, the bees, the wasps. Like, they all
The wasps, I've got a
play
little
their
bit of a
roles.
grudge, just because they're pesky bastards sometimes.
They are.
Because they obviously feed off the fermented apples. They're drunk. I don't know if people realise that.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
this.
so they don't just sting you because they genuinely are
They sting
trying to
because
be
they're
twats.
drunk.
There's in like autumn that the apples are fermenting. You see that they all fall now, and they're going to be slightly rotting. They ferment. They turn to cider, and all the wasps go. For some reason, the bees aren't doing it.
It's something to do with wasps have a higher. I researched recently about wasps because I was
Okay.
like, what do wasps do?
Yeah,
Apparently, they have a higher sense for like glucose,
right. That would make sense.
and I think it's towards September or August. This isn't 100% correct, by the way, guys. Do some Google research. I think like to September, August, they say that their larvae have hatched,
Right.
but while their larvae are still not as larvae, they
Yeah.
produce some sort of glucose for the wasps to consume.
Yeah.
So that's why they say towards the end of summer, September's, August's, they're everywhere because their sense is so high, and obviously we have such heightened sweetened things now,
Yeah.
and they're not getting it from where they regularly get it from, so they annoy us. It literally is why it's like why wasps are annoying at the end. It's literally the end of summer every year.
Yeah.
Because
no, it is. It's this time. We're wasp season now.
Their regular food is now, well, their regular like source of it is finished, and they think, whoa, you've got it over here. you guys have got some, and you guys got a very, very, very like highly concentrated version of it as well.
Maybe there must be
Crazy.
but even like you just think some of them are crazy because they're actually drunk.
I didn't know that is.
Yeah.
I
might be
I'm
completely
weirdly
wrong.
a fan of this.
Yeah, I need to. I'll go fact
Drunk
check
wasp
this.
got me.
I can't wait. I can't wait to edit this and just be like on the YouTube video, just like completely false information. I'm so sorry.
Scenarios in my head of it as well. I go home, there's just a drunk wasp like you.
Yeah, you mind.
Yeah.
They just don't know what they're doing sometimes. Like I need to get a horticulturist on. Might even get my dad on. He basically he knows all this stuff. Imagine, hi dad. It's like let's
Tell us
talk
about the
bees.
wasps.
Yeah. Okay, so we've digressed, but no regrets because that was actually really fun. So in terms of this campaign, is it still ongoing? Where can people find information in the campaign?
So it's quite a low level campaign, I'd say, at the moment. It's very much me giving out seeds. The goal is at the moment to get as many people involved as possible, to potentially then get as many people to share the pictures of sort of how things were before, how they were after. It's very hard to get people to share the pictures because obviously there's 3-month gap in between planting and they've grown, and then some people lose interest, which is fine because obviously you planted it, so you've done the necessary bit anyway. To then sort of create a bigger picture of, as a whole, we've done this. If you want to join, it's the same thing. Like I have the seeds. I bought them to give out. That's the purpose. So that's kind of the whole campaign at the moment. I'm trying currently to sort of partner with a bee trust, like a charity, because obviously they have a lot more information than I have. Mine is more sort of, it's something that I care about, as opposed to I am well versed in the understanding. As you said, like I don't know all the facts
Yet.
So yeah, that's my version of the campaign. Obviously, if I do partnership with a charity, they'll be able to bring more actual facts and information and things that I could promote to get other people to do. Could be smaller things, right? It could be just don't cut that down yet, literally, or if you've got this in your garden, put it here.
Yeah.
It's simple things.
Yeah. Even if someone just got a big lawn, I'm like, just take a little side strip.
Yeah,
And just do have a little it's quite simple. No, I love that. Okay, so in terms of, I think you've gone through your 3 events now. I like the way that kind of was so different at the end as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question that I ask all the guests.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is the stress question.
Seatbelt on. I want you to picture Lewis in 10 years. That Lewis is sitting right here. Okay. Or maybe he's here. Who knows? What do you think he'd say to you?
Oh. That was a hard one.
You can take your time. It could be advice. It could be comment on something. It could be whatever you want. His what?
Just cut your hair. I would hope to think it'd be keep going.
Okay.
I'd like to hope that it kind of all worked out. Like, as you said, when you start, it's a lot of work for very little reward. Potentially not even very little reward that you see and accept. Sometimes it's bigger in the world outside of what you feel, because obviously, imposter syndrome and all of the bits that come with it, and the amount of work you feel like you're doing compared to what you feel like is being seen, because you never know who's seeing what and how many people are affected. But I'd like to think it's that it paid off in the way that, not even in the way that I hope it does now, in the way that matters then,
Yeah.
I guess, in the way like it worked out in a happy way,
Yeah.
sort of, even if I don't get to, the accolades and the whatever it is, that it was, I'd say, sort of worthwhile.
Is there anything that you're kind of like contemplating, like I did a dilemma or something? You don't need to share what that is, but you think that yourself in 10 years, what advice he'd give you?
Oh, these are good questions.
Thanks. I'm improving.
Yes. I don't know if there's specific,
That's fine.
but like as you've said, in the same way that you also do it, it's the jumping from thing to thing.
Okay.
So that would potentially be is the new thing worth losing time over the old? Because as I said, like right now, not right now, it's obviously, hopefully, I hope that I continue the Save the Bees for many, many years and do much grander things at some point. But it's, as I said, I'd like to do a horticulture. It's not a degree, it's a qualification. But it's that, would doing that take away so much from what I'm doing here, is that worth it?
So balance is what you're looking for.
Yeah. But it's the, I'd hope they'd be able to say the balance was well balanced and not, you did way too much of that. Yeah, you probably should have stuck with this.
I mean, me now looking back to 8 years ago, for example, I'm like, oh dear. But I kind of, even, it wasn't balanced, but I like learned from that. So now I'm like trying to balance it. And I don't think I'm actually necessarily getting it right all the time. But I don't think I ever will get it completely right all the time.
It's hard to, because you never know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
As I look back now and saying with the dancing, it was like that took everything. I wish I'd started the films, the creation, and because I'd be 4 years ahead.
Yeah.
And the music, because I'd be 4 years ahead. And
it's so easy for, I think, people to think that, like, oh, why didn't I start here?
Yeah.
I do it all the time. Like, I'm like, imagine if I started this podcast now when I was like 18 and I put it on YouTube and like I could have millions of subscribers. I'm like, listen, what's the reason I actually asked the question at the end is because that's what kind of motivated me to do season 2. Well, not the only motivation, but I actually asked myself that question.
Yeah.
And I was like, 10 years, when Amy's 38, she's going to be like, there's 2 things she's going to say. She's going to go, well done for trying, look where we are now. Or she's going to go, well, why didn't you try? You just gave up. So then I was like, panic. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, like for me, the reward is one thing, but the fear, like the alternative.
Yeah, my fear of not trying is huge now.
It's too much now. So I'm like, we're going for it. But on that note, thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. It wasn't as stressful as I thought I'd done. Yeah.
See, that's what happens. But no, thank you so much for coming on, and see you next time.
Yes.